What's the point of Tottenham Hotspur currently? What is it?
I don't see a possibility of going to Arsenal.
They're never going to say it.
I'm going to say it.
There's two people on this earth who love David Moyes. Number one is his wife. I'm close second.
I'm really bored of watching Arsenal.
Every facility is the best in class.
We were on fire last week.
Well, social media is not a reflection of reality.
Isn't it? Thank God.
I've got bigger fish to fry. I want the league.
I don't think United have any of that in any position.
No, we went through this, right?
Hello and welcome to the new Fan Debate brought to you by Sky Bet. And this week I'm joined by Scholes and all the fans as usual. Where's Shane? You're on the quiz.
Yeah, I'm nervous. I can't.
You're nervous?
I'm terrible at quizzes.
Nervous.
Terrible at quizzes.
You're terrible. All right, well, I've got the questions for you here. Oh, Scholes has got the thing here.
Yeah, we're on.
So you've seen it before, you know what goes on, yeah?
For sure.
How long you've got to go, so we don't need to go through that. Okay, so we've got 90 seconds. Okay. Name the player that has scored the most goals for West Ham in the Premier League.
Mick Antonio.
Okay. Who was the only West Ham player to score a penalty in the 2006 FA Cup final?
Kocheski.
No. How many West Ham players have won the Premier League Golden Boot?
Pass.
I'll give you that, it was none. Who scored the winner? Who scored the winner for West Ham when they defeated Man United 3-2 at the last game of the Bowling Ground?
Winston Reid.
Yes. 5 non-British managers have taken charge of West Ham in the Premier League. Name 4 of them.
Slaven Bilic, Pellegrini, Lopetegui.
One more. Who's played for Chelsea?
Zola.
Yeah. Jared Bowen scored the winner in the 2023 Conference League final. Who played the through ball?
Paqueta.
Which World Cup Golden Boot winner played for West Ham in the Premier League?
Yeah, I'm not good at World Cups. Pass again.
Paolo Di Canio sportingly called the ball when which Everton goalkeeper went down injured?
Which Everton goalkeeper went down injured? Pass.
No, you won't remember him, he's crap. Paul Gerrard. How many goals did Kevin Nolan score for West Ham?
Pardon?
How many goals did Kevin Nolan score for West Ham?
30.
I'll give you that, 31. Carlton Cole opened the score in the 2012 playoff final, but which Portuguese striker scored the winner?
That's Tay.
How many points did the West Ham manage when they were relegated in 02-03?
That's the highest number of points. 44.
Oh, 42.
Oh.
You got 7.
Tough.
7.
They were tough.
Oh, so he's going bottom.
7.
Yeah.
Poor effort. I don't know.
You had the hardest questions I've ever.
Yeah, they were difficult.
Started slow and got worse.
Right, loads to get into with the FA Cup. Few smiles, few sad faces in here. So, Flav, I'll start with you. Out of 2 cup competitions in 4 days.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people probably would have predicted that.
Yeah.
But how does it feel on the back of those 2 defeats now?
Pretty bad. Yeah, bad. You know, you go into Liverpool, you can kind of sort of understand that going to Anfield is going to be difficult. That perhaps the first leg was managed properly by Arne Slot. We thought, we'll just beat Liverpool, forgetting a little bit that it's 2 legs, and then you go to Anfield and actually, no, this is the actual Liverpool that was supposed to be playing, and it was impossible. The performance, even though it was very difficult, the performance wasn't there, and it was bleak. But you kind of, to some degree, thought that it was a difficult result to get. But then you're going into Villa Park, a ground actually we have a decent amount of format. You know, we won 4-0 last year there, and it was a similar sort of issues. But the issues you're seeing play out for Spurs are that there are several reasons behind it, and it wasn't just isolated in that 90 minutes. So I wasn't surprised by what I was seeing.
You know, the Liverpool game, we were obviously doing the game for Sky. We were really critical of Tottenham after the game.
Yeah, it should be as well.
Was it the performance more than going out? I couldn't believe how meek you were in that game. And
I think the problem is, Jamie, you're right, is that people have got used to seeing that Spurs 11, and that isn't the Spurs 11. That's not the 11 that Ange Postecoglou wants to play. And the injuries, I know people don't want to hear it, the injuries are an issue, but the even bigger issue is they got used to seeing Archie Gray play as centre-back. They're used to seeing Bergvall play in midfield. And there is the gap between playing at that level and as you'll know, playing against Premier League regulars and people that are comfortable at that level is gargantuan. Like we've become used to seeing Bergvall in midfield, but when Maddison's on the pitch, you realise he's twice the player of this kid. That's not to take anything away from these players. It's just that it's almost impossible to play the way we are with the playing staff that we have. Now the question is, why don't you change the way you play? Why don't you become more pragmatic? And you could argue, all right, we'll replace Postecoglou for David Moyes if he wasn't at Everton. Would he get more points with this group than Postecoglou currently? Yeah, probably would. Probably get a couple more wins, a couple more draws. What happens when our players come back? Do you want Postecoglou with that group of players or David Moyes? And the answer is Postecoglou. So while this is difficult, while it's almost an endless barrage of abuse that I'm receiving on a daily basis, I see the bigger picture and I'm kind of hanging my hat on that in the hope that it comes true.
I think, sorry, Jim, I think it was the manner of defeats, wasn't it? More than anything, they were quite tame, weren't they? When we think about Tottenham, yeah, they can see goals, but they look like they can score goals, for most of the season.
Yeah.
That seems to have gone a little bit this last couple of weeks, especially on Thursday night against Liverpool. You didn't look like you were going to score. Now look, Anfield's a tough place to go. You played against probably the best team.
I mean, we could have played that game
yesterday again.
Yeah.
Oh, it was really tame and a cup tie, but you still look like you're going to concede loads of goals.
Yeah, no, there is massive issues, and again, it's the idea and the way he wants to play, and the midfield being what it was means that we are going to continue to get exposed until these players come back. It's just, do we have is there will within the fan base and in the football club to see this out? And it may take till the end of the season. It takes essentially to when Van der Ven and Romero come back. Will they come back? I don't know. The messaging coming out of the football club is really vague. We don't know whether they're going to be fit. When Van der Ven played 45 minutes against Elfsborg the other day, he didn't look right. He was kicking the ball weirdly.
I think they just have to be careful this time because they brought him back that many times and they broke down straight away. I think, did I see Romero was training as well a couple of weeks ago? And I'm thinking, God, don't bring him back. And
maybe.
You probably need to strengthen up over the next couple of weeks to try and just make sure they're right this time rather than going back to the early.
To what end, though? I mean, if we finish 15th or we finish 9th, it doesn't make any difference, really. What we've got, all we've got for the rest of the season is Europa League. That's a month away. Can you get these players back and prioritise that competition? If you win that, optics are very different for the season. I mean, probably the best season I'll ever experience as a Spurs fan if we somehow win the Europa League and finish 15th, which tells you everything about Spurs. But
that's a really good point, though. You've got a month Europa League. It's important now you get them two back. Yeah. Even if they're ready now, I'd forget about it.
Yeah.
Just give them an extra 2 or 3 weeks. When they think they're ready, give them that extra 2 or 3 weeks more and get them ready for that.
Sorry for that. I listened to Ange coming in on the radio. It must have been his interview from after the game.
Yeah.
And he was talking about... He mentioned it a little bit, almost like a little bit of an agenda against him, a little bit. Wasn't a big thing he said, but he almost said, what these players have done for us in the last 2.5 months has been fantastic. And if you're not saying that, your analysis is skewed, basically. And we analysed them. So, we... Do
you feel like when you listen to it on the radio, do you think he's fucking talking about me?
Yeah.
Do you?
I was having a pop here. But no, so then you do think, well, okay, what have we said? Have you gone too far sometimes or what? But the way he described it, I thought, but you lose every game. So you can't say it's amazing. Because what his point being was these same players are having to play every 3 days. And I get that. And what you've just said there is young players. I think we've said on this show, for me, don't change that Postecoglou. You've got to let him get his players back. But we played every 3 days, didn't we? And if you get beat, you can't say it was amazing. I know there's injuries, I get that. But I still look at it and think it's still not enough, even though for all the mitigating circumstances, it should still have been a lot better than this. And even though Anfield is tough, I looked at the team he picked, and I think it was probably the team I would have picked if I was Postecoglou. And we've almost said, we always wanting to, play great football. But he went to Anfield and went with sort of no number 10. He only has people between the lines. It was almost like going away in Europe. That's what it felt like to me. Yeah. And that's probably what I would have done. So I wouldn't be critical of the team he picked, but the midfield was just didn't put a challenge in, weren't aggressive. And then I watched yesterday, and it's almost a flip. And within 1 minute, the right back is closing Villa's left back down, straight from a kick-off. And the next thing, Villa go for him, scoring, just like, what is this? I'm like,
I mean, Pedro Porro lives literally like he's marking the goalkeeper. It's crazy how far forward he gets, and it is an issue. And you'd have seen the amount of times we get exposed on the other side of the pitch. It's a part of his tactics, the way he operates, and he bakes in that to his tactic. But when you see it get exposed over and over again, it can be frustrating. But to be fair, you saw what Liverpool did at the weekend, and when you make wholesale changes, it has a massive impact. And Spurs have, I know people don't want to hear it, it's boring, I'm bored even saying it, but we've had to play like that since November, more or less, barring a couple of games. And if you think that isn't going to impact your domestic campaign and cup competitions, then it's foolish, really. And I think just to answer your question quickly on what you said about Postecoglou's comments, to me that was just him protecting his players. There's an element of moving the narrative away rather than him saying this is a fine performance. What have we got? Something like 6 points from 36, something like that in the league. It's not good enough. It can't continue. Any other football club, he'd probably have been sacked by now. So I'm surprised he's still in the job.
At what point do we start blaming players, though? Because they have to take responsibility, don't they? You made a really good point about Porro there. In the first minute, he's bombing on it. He does it all the time. Every chance I saw, and there was a lot of them, were in that channel where he was. We know that little inside left channel. Ramsey kept getting there.
It's happened throughout the season.
At what point does he think, I can't keep doing that? Yeah. I'm getting destroyed back here. I mean, we're going to concede goals. Or where's the centre half? Say, come in, just stay here for 5 minutes. Where are you going?
I think
you've got to take responsibility at some point on the pitch rather than looking at your manager.
I just don't. I just think it's a little bit, and I never want to be one of those people who says, "Oh, we used to do that," because the game moves on, the game's better, it's quicker, all these different things. But I just don't know. I sometimes think information gets given to players, but we've got this game plan. And whatever happens in the game, it's like, no, the manager's told me to do this. Yeah. So I think if that was when we were playing, away at Aston Villa in a cup tie, early on from the kickoff, you'd have your fullbacks in it. Let's get through the first 10 or 15 minutes, then we'll start maybe pressing them. Once you've had your first, I bet your Porro probably hadn't even touched the ball. By then, basically, I bet there was a lot of Tottenham players who hadn't touched the ball and they're getting beat 1-0. Yeah. Straight from the kick. I just think that sort of game management, that's always been my criticism a little bit of the manager, Postecoglou, just smelling what's going on in the game, and you can't always have this idea of what you want to do and playing exactly the same way, no matter what the game status or who you're playing. Away at Villa, under massive pressure, people are talking about if you go out the FA Cup, he might lose his job. I don't think that was going to happen, but you 1-0 down after a minute.
What do you think that it was an inexperience? Did you see inexperience on that? Is it a system issue? Because if you look at our starting 11, you've got Archie Gray playing out of position as an 18-year-old. You've got Mikey Moore, 17-year-olds on the left. You've got two brand new starters in Danso and Tell. Berival, 18 in midfield. Isn't it kind of understandable that these mistakes are happening to some degree?
Yeah, you can, but you've still got a little bit of experience around that, haven't you? You think of Son up front, Benton Coe's an experienced player. Yeah. Now they don't look like they're helping the players around them. I think Jamie makes a good point about players listening to instructions of the manager. It's almost tunnel vision. They go out, he's told me to be here. They can't think for themselves on the football pitch, which is a big difference from
you said something in the last episode, last week, Paul. You mentioned about how Fergie gave you the freedom to operate, that you had a formation, but it was up to you to make the right decision at the right time. It was, how much was it? Just go out and play, do your thing? Is that?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't go out and play. Of course, it wasn't. You were in a structure. You were in a formation, and normally 4-4-1-1 or 4-4-2, whatever you called it. But he never took the freedom away from you. You think of players like Roy Keane. Everyone sees him as a disciplined number 6 player, like your Makelele. He wasn't like that. He was bombing off everywhere. But as long as everybody filled in, so I couldn't go and Roy go at the same time. Do you know what I mean? You had to make sure there's a gap filled. It was common sense, really. And I think Tottenham do have a structure, but it's that defensively, especially, they're not that bothered about conceding chances because they think they're going to score. They think they're going to be attacking all the time, and it needs that experience around. I don't know if Romero's there, right side centre half, he might be one saying. I haven't seen any evidence of that. I think back when Jamie, don't go back to, if Jamie's right side centre half or a right back, if he's right back, he's not going anywhere, he's staying there. And if they're getting exposed by his right back, he says, fucking stay here. Don't go anywhere, away from home in a tough game. So there has to be structures to it, but players have to think for themselves. The manager's told me this, I'm going to do this, that's that. things happen differently during games that sometimes the manager might expect, and I just think players thinking for themselves is something that's gone out of the game.
Flav, I want to ask you, so there was, if you notice, the Spurs fans are probably more with Postecoglou than they are maybe with the chairman. There's always, you hear it on the TV, you know, Levy out and stuff like that. Do you think that has any effect on the chairman? Do you think that would make him think, oh, this is not the, it's happened before? And if he was to make a decision in terms of the manager's position in the next sort of few weeks or months, who are Spurs fans actually thinking about right now?
I think actually they're not thinking about the next manager. They're not thinking about there are segments of Spurs fans that think that he's not the right manager and they want him out for sure. But this growing sentiment and the issues that we're currently experiencing is Daniel Levy and putting pressure on him. Is he going to leave? I mean, he owns 20% of the football club on his own, so no is the answer. But can you put pressure on him to change the way he operates? Potentially, and there's a movement called Change for Tottenham that's happening. There's going to be some activity before the game against Man United at the weekend, and fans coming together to express their disappointment in the way Daniel Levy has run the football club, and you can find him on Twitter if you want to find out more. In terms of a name, if Postecoglou wants to go, or if he gets sacked rather.
Flav, sorry, can I just stop you there? What is Daniel Levy doing so badly?
I think you have to look at the 2 decades of his tenureship and think that structurally he's done it
You've come
wonderful.
a long way.
I think we have come a long way.
Training ground,
Yeah,
the
I know,
business
I mean,
side of it is
you-
brilliant. I know you want to.
I know.
I know that needs to catch up on the pitch, but I don't think it's for the want of not trying.
What for me it comes down to is that there's an idea about what Tottenham are and how they're going to operate in the transfer window, and that's what fundamentally all of this comes down to: is can you buy players or get managers in better than what you have currently? And if Tottenham and Arsenal, who are on a even playing field in terms of revenue coming into the football club, can't operate in the same way, then there's an issue. And that's what we have at Tottenham. The key motivator for Daniel Levy, it seems, based on the evidence over the last 20 years, isn't about, first and foremost, about what happens on the pitch. It's about the infrastructure around them.
I disagree with that, though, because you talk about bringing better managers. He brought Conte in. Unbelievable manager, successful. Jose Mourinho. Pochettino at the start was probably not, but he's turned out to be a brilliant manager.
Look at the transfer window. Mourinho, you bring Mourinho in. In my opinion, at that time, was probably the most ambitious move Tottenham could make and have made. And you look at the transfer window, his first 2 transfer windows, and they're appalling. They didn't back the manager. They didn't give him everything he needed to win. When your wage spend is so far below the other top 6 or top 5 clubs in terms of, be the big 6, if you will, it's so far below how everybody else operates, and you're paying the most to watch your football team play. There's going to be a discrepancy between how the fans feel about the football club and who runs it. He has to answer to some degree. He doesn't have to, he never will, but there has to be questions asked of how well he's running his football club. If there isn't, then what's the point? What's the point of Tottenham Hotspur currently? What is it? When Arsenal went in for Declan Rice, there wasn't a great deal on the pitch between Tottenham and Arsenal. There wasn't a great deal, right? Heritage-wise, in terms of trophies won, I understand there's a gap. As difficult as that is to say, it's the truth, right? So at that time, there was one club who had a sole intention in order to moving forward, and that was Arsenal. And Spurs continually were happy to stand still. Is there any world where Declan Rice, a player of his calibre, is first any world where Tottenham go in for him, and secondly, is that he comes to the football club? The answer is no to both of those things. Why is that? And that's why Daniel Levy.
In all honesty, with Declan Rice, if any player around the world has to choose between Arsenal and Tottenham, they're going to choose Arsenal.
Right, but that needs to change, and that can only change with Daniel Levy. It can't change with fans, clapping and singing and getting behind him because, he's built a stadium. Like the stadium is
why
lovely.
Why does it have to change with Daniel Levy? Why does it change with the manager and getting the right players in? And
it all comes from him. If there's, if a fish stinks, it stinks from the head. He's done great work building the revenue for the football club.
You know what? I
wouldn't
wouldn't mind Daniel Levy at our club now.
You'd have him. Well, I wouldn't swap him for Ratcliffe for sure. Yeah, I'd keep him instead of Ratcliffe.
Would you swap Ange for Amorim?
No.
I don't. So the case in point, would you wouldn't, right? But would either of us swap those managers for David Moyes?
No.
He would get more points than Amorim's got for Man United. David Moyes would, wouldn't he?
No.
Yeah,
Short term.
He would.
You know we went through this, right?
When he came in.
you know we went through this, innit?
Right, let's get to Gareth. Plymouth 1, Liverpool 0. How are you feeling about that this morning?
I'm not, look, it's always disappointing, isn't it, to lose. You don't want to see your team lose. I said on here the other week as well, to me, any bit of silver with red ribbons on it is a good thing. Seeing that on an open top bus and you stood there with your son and all of that, brilliant. So we've got one less chance to bring them one home. But I think some of the stuff's over the top. I think the team he put out was more than capable. And you've got to be looking at some of the players who are on the pitch and asking them why they performed in the way they did. So, you know, Arne Slot puts a team out. He doesn't tell Simicast to play so many bad crosses. He doesn't tell Chiesa not to be able to beat a man all game. You know, all of those kind of things. There's enough there to beat a team bottom of the Championship. The other thing is, and I'm probably going to take pelters for saying it, but we've got bigger fish to fry. And I want the league. I want to see Liverpool win the league with us in the ground. You know, I said this the other week, and it's such a huge thing. I've been waiting all my life to see it. I've seen us win the FA Cup. We won the FA Cup the other year under Jurgen Klopp. And look, I like the FA Cup. I love all the aspects of it in terms of non-league clubs getting a bit of revenue and giant killings, which this is one. But I think what he did and the discourse around it doesn't recognise that, you know, Liverpool have been playing weekend since November. And we've burnt out before when we tried to win everything. And so I think they're never going to say it. No one at Liverpool is ever going to come out and go on the record and say, we didn't really see it as a priority.
I'm going to say it.
You'd say, I don't know. But you know, Slot's not going to say it, is he? Like, afterwards he's interviewed
He'll
about
he'll be thinking it today, though. He'll be thinking, that's not a bad thing, that.
I thought, looking at it, because I came on this show, I think, about a month ago, and I was gutted when Man United beat Arsenal. That worried me from a Liverpool point of view in terms of the league, because I think the last sort of couple of years when Arsenal have challenged, like really pushed City close for the league, I think a lot of it, because I've always thought City were a level above Arsenal, but I think Arsenal have gone close because they went out to the cup competitions really early. I think even like the Carabao Cup, I think this season's probably the first time they've had a decent run, got to the semi-final. I think the year before you got beat away at West Ham and we beat you in the cup. And I looked at when Arsenal went out to United, I was thinking, oh, that could be a problem. I thought we'd go far in it. And I actually think yesterday was just a great day all round. Great for the FA Cup, giant killing. Great for Plymouth. And I think it's really good. I think it's decent for Liverpool.
And we know I was gutted, to be clear.
We know this score as well.
Yeah, I was gutted.
I think the way I looked at it, does that give Liverpool more chance of winning the league? And I think so. Probably a percentage of it probably does.
Yeah, because now we're going to have a free weekend when we likely would have had another game. And
you know, it's not the free week. You know what it is with me, Gareth? I think it's the difference between the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup is the Carabao Cup, besides the final, it doesn't affect your league game. So Liverpool now, because of the Carabao Cup final, I've got to play Villa away and City away within 4 days. That is not easy. You could go to Villa and draw 1-1, tough game, 1-1. You could go to City, Haaland does something, score, and you've not used 5 points. Do you know what I'm saying is, just because a game getting put in a position where you think, oh, Villa away, City away. I think the FA Cup can have, maybe, is it 3 of them? Or definitely the semi-final and the FA Cup final means you've got to move. Okay. Where does it go? Where did he go?
I agree with what you said, Joe, about yesterday is probably a good thing. But then you think about momentum. You know what I mean? You lose yesterday, and all of a sudden there's a little bit more pressure on you Wednesday. And if you drop points on Wednesday, you think, shit, no, there's that little bit of momentum we had where everyone's going into games winning, and it does put a little bit of pressure on you. But like you say, I think you're probably better out of it.
I do. I think Wednesday, for me, I think Wednesday's the biggest game of the season so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got 5 games in 15 days. So I think if he put more of the stars on the pitch yesterday and then they're getting injured, what would we be sitting here saying today? Why did he go so strong? Why did he put Van Dijk there? Why did he put Mo Salah there? So to me, the logic is obvious. I think as well, around the logic, again, you would never get this on the record from someone at Liverpool, but history shows that winning the League Cup and getting to the FA Cup final wasn't good enough for Kenny Dalglish to keep his job. They sacked him because he didn't do well enough in the league in their view. So Arne Slot surely knows that as well. And again, he's not going to admit it, but you know there is a priority in terms of what competitions are. I mean, you know, look at the money as well. You know, we don't like to talk about that as fans, and we love all the romance side of it. But you win the FA Cup, you get £2 million as the winner. You win in the Champions League, you get 1.7 million per win in that league stage. So Liverpool have already banked about 13 million quid out of the Champions League so far.
It's not about money though, is it, winning the FA Cup?
It's not, no, but I think it's got to be a consideration in terms of how the clubs run and maybe conversations behind the scenes that we're not privy to.
So are we saying like the FA Cup just doesn't really matter anymore? If you're going for the league, just bin it off?
No, I think if you're one of the teams who was going for the league and the Champions League, it can.
It is. It's third.
I mean, listen, City won the treble. United won the treble. But I mean, up until a couple of years ago, there's only been one team in English football who'd ever sort of won the 3 trophies. And I think Liverpool twice in the last 4 or 5 years have had this thing of like, well, probably 3 times now, including this season, the quadruple. No one's ever done it because it's virtually impossible. But the thing that's killed Liverpool is, in the last few years, they won the Carling Cup and the FA Cup, but they lost the league and the Champions League, the ones that they really want. And last year ended up just with the Carabao. So all this idea of like winning all these trophies, they never ended up with any of the big ones.
Yeah, you burn them out, don't you? Because, you know, one of those finals against Chelsea when we win the 2 cups but fail in the big ones, if you like. I can remember being there at Wembley and Liverpool were in extra time and they couldn't run. They were just waiting for penalties. They were hardly crossing the halfway line. They were just knocking it round. They were done. They were gassed, and they were like, "We'll try and win it on pens." That's how goose they were at that stage, and that's what, you know, playing this many games does to you. So, I think you're spot on when you say we've now upped our chances of winning.
What does it say about the squad though? Like, if you're going into the Premier League, Champions League run, you're going to need a big squad. Your squad can't beat Plymouth.
I think one of the reasons he got slot in, though, if you look at his track record in Holland, him and his team have got a track record of keeping players fit. And I think that was one of the considerations for bringing him in. I was with an Evertonian at the weekend who said, why are none of your players getting injured? I mean, that's not strictly true because Trent is, now Gomez is, etc. Curtis couldn't come off the bench at the weekend because apparently he had a bit of a knock as well. So, but injuries have derailed Liverpool's seasons before. I mean, it was a miracle that we won that League Cup last season with the players that helped us get there and players that are on the pitch in the final, etc. And I don't think you can rely on miracles. You've got to try and keep your best players fit, and I think that's what he's doing. So it made sense yesterday for me. It made sense what he did against PSV as well. No one likes to get beat, but there's a bigger picture, isn't there?
But Gareth, you go on another, you've got your own podcast as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You had a few things to say about Manchester City, didn't you, this week? I mean, can you elaborate on them? And you've got Mr. Man City next door to you.
It's just a theory. It's one of my mates has had this theory all season. He's like, if you look at the betting odds, for some reason, and I don't know the reason, I was merely speculating on my podcast, but for some reason, City are about 16-1. To get relegated.
Seen that? Yeah.
And it's like, well, why is that?
It's because everyone wants to bet on it, don't they? So everyone here wants, besides me, probably wants City to get relegated. Do you know what I mean? If it was an option, betting odds aren't necessarily just about what are the chances it's going to happen. It's about who's putting money on it. And if 10,000 people put 100 quid on City to go down, it's 3,000 to 1 and it happens, you can have another Leicester situation. So, yeah, I've seen that.
What do you all think in the City bubble, if you like? What do you all think is going to happen over these 115
the majority
charges?
of us are pretty confident. We've come into these charges. It's
Was you and your mates in the pub? Are we confident? Yeah.
The thing is, it's 2 years now since these came up. And the whole time, since the owners came in 2008, it's been nothing but good. Even around the ground, you look at the developments, look at every facility is the best in class. And
You went on fire last week.
well, I think that was vandalism.
That was the account department.
Yeah.
That was the Premier League.
That was good.
Well, since the owners have come in, they've not put a foot wrong. Other than the only one question mark is the Super League and why we joined that. But I think that was a 50-50. And if you look at that from their choice to join that, I think the hand was forced a bit, and obviously every English club came out of that, thankfully. But I think everyone's got a bit of confidence that, I mean, you look at the transfer window we've just had. We just spent 200 million. And we didn't, as I said a few weeks ago, we didn't spend much in the summer window at all. But we spent that now. Is that not a sign of confidence from the board?
Is that a sign that you think you won't be able to sign players in the summer?
I mean, that's one take. Some people think, is it going to be a transfer ban? Are we getting the numbers in now? But one, we need them for the rest of the season if we want to get in the Champions League, if we want to win anything. And two, I think it is a sign of confidence. You wouldn't go shelling out 200 mil if you were going to get relegated next year, would
But
you?
it was very unlike City to kind of, like, I think Marmoush looked quite good, but there's only really like 18 months of him being a very good player. And normally they like to scout people, like to take their time, like to bed them in, and you're just chucking what's his name? Kusanov in.
Yeah, I thought he was really good at the weekend. He came on and scored, to be fair.
At Leighton Orient.
His head,
Deflection.
But yeah, no, I think I'm pretty confident. I mean, when the board say they've got irrefutable evidence.
Every City fan I've spoken to are all confident. They're all a bit. Is there any City fans going, "I'm shitting it"? I think we're done.
The thing is, I don't know how you could. I get that everyone's like.
How? Just by reading those emails?
The thing is, though, I'm confident because I've not got a reason. If somebody consistently never let you down, would you expect the best in them or the worst in them?
But anyway, I'm not sure if I can say this, but remember Abramovich never let Chelsea down, but he let a lot of people down.
I don't have a reason. I don't care what's on the table. I don't have a reason outside of the. I don't have a reason to not be confident, so I'm confident. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
What about the actual charges?
Are you confident about beating Real Madrid?
No. I think the game this week at home, we got the crowd bit. I think we might sneak a win or draw, but I think the away game is. We've been there when we've been 2 goals ahead with added time to play and still lost there. We've been like the best team in the world really and still lost to them. So when we're in this form and this season, I don't think
You got a chance though. Real Madrid.
I mean, you've always got in a cup competition. You've always got a
I
chance.
can't see how you stop them scoring.
Yeah, I don't think we do. I think it will just
2, 3,
be
4.
a basketball game, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think they've got a lot of injuries. They've got there's a few players that, I mean, I'm clutching at straws a bit. They've got about 6 players. If they get a yellow in the first leg, they'll miss the second leg. So
the dark arts coming out.
So hoping Grealish is.
It might be over by then.
Ready,
Isn't it?
yeah, it could be. We could get done 3-0. And I was speaking to one of my mates and I said, we said like even City.
We're confident.
If City won 3-0, would you say we were through guaranteed? Because I wouldn't.
Well, talking about the Champions League, we've got Quinny in from Celtic. He's making his debut, and big game for you against Bayern Munich.
Yeah, it's one not many people fancies to do well in, which is quite reasonable given everything. But got to be optimistic about these things. It was between us and City for who got Real Madrid and who got Bayern Munich, and I think both teams have got like lots of injuries in defence. So you can cross your fingers a wee bit with that, can't you?
What are we thinking up there, Celtic-wise? Obviously, you had Postecoglou. Brendan Rodgers come back after obviously getting a lot of stick, moving to Leicester and that. What's the feeling around sort of Brendan Rodgers at the club now and how Celtic are doing?
I think overall it's completely turned from when he first came, like when he was announced as coming back. There was a lot of mixed emotions back then because of how he left, mid-season. And I was saying to the guys before we started, like by all accounts, like if he didn't leave in the way he did, the achievements he had was like statue territory, quadruple trebles, invincibles, and everything else that went along the way. We even drew with City in Champions League group stages and stuff like that. So to leave that in the way he did, and then come back, there was a lot of mixed emotions around it. But it seems like the club over the last couple of years is really put a lot of time and effort into trying to level up in a lot of different ways, in terms of infrastructure, scouting. Obviously, a lot more of our players are getting transferred for better transfer fees now, which is lovely. And yeah, it feels like a lot of it has been driving towards maybe a little bit of the Champions League reformat that we've had. Certainly has benefited us, no end at all.
Yeah, when I think of Celtic, Champions League and European competition, I think they can beat anybody at home. Not a problem. But they always got beat away.
Yep.
It seems like they've gone a little bit more solid away from home, would that be right?
Oh, this year's been brilliant for it. We got a draw 0-0 away to Atalanta. And Italy has been the place where, if something bad's going to happen to us, it's away in Italy. So to get a draw against Atalanta as well, who are like.
And has he changed anything? Has he been more defensive when he's gone away from home? Or?
In Atalanta, there was a big difference. You could see that it was still the same shape, same players and that kind of thing, but there was much more of a focus on kind of what we're chatting about with Spurs and that earlier.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Yeah.
Change the script a little bit.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the matches, it's been kind of the same. But I think that's one of the things Brendan does kind of give us a little bit is that kind of Premier League level of expectation. And there was a real come down, a real kind of drop off a cliff when he left because it basically took a Premier League football department out of Celtic into Leicester. We're talking about 10, 12 members of staff or something like that. So he really does lift the level, like the floor on everything that's getting done. And yeah, there's been so many improvements away from home, getting good points. Zagreb, we drew. We probably should have beat them. I think it was quite a tame match. The Atalanta one was fantastic. And you know, Aston Villa a few weeks ago wasn't great, but it was a kind of the battle of the B teams in some ways. You know, we didn't have a bench, they didn't have a defence. And on another day, that could have went a little bit better. You know, like Battle Britain matches, you know, Celtic have always been great at, you know, especially at home. Also, it was at Villa Park. So yeah, like Brendan's like kind of got all the fans back on board now. There's no more kind of residual kind of memories of all that kind of stuff that kind of hangs around. And it feels like, especially with the way the transfer window just kind of finished for us in January, again, there's some parallels with Tottenham where everyone's quite firmly in Brendan's corner and everyone's looking at the board going, where's the checkbook? You know, like we're missing a few players here, sort of thing.
Does anything get taken away from his achievement at Celtic because Rangers are so bad?
Not really, because like, as you see with like the FA Cup games and stuff like we were just chatting about, and even the result on Sunday with Rangers in Queen's Park, like Scottish football gets talked down and everything like that in terms of the level, and the Premier League is like the top of football, you know, in so many different ways of looking at it. But it's still 11 men versus 11 men. You know, there's still referees, which again, we could talk about that in Scotland probably for a full day, I suppose. So, like, yeah, there has to be context around it, but it doesn't diminish it at all because, you know, the complacency is probably the biggest part of that you're wrestling with then, is keeping everyone on the same level, keeping the appetite going.
You must have enjoyed that yesterday, though.
Oh,
Is that one of the biggest shocks in Scottish football of all time, that?
Yeah, it probably. Well, it's funny because the Rangers fans were putting around, it's 25 years to the day since Inverness and Celtic, you know, and so they're probably the two biggest upsets. So it's quite funny that they wanted to remind us of that and then had a taste of their own medicine later on. But yeah, that was a huge shock. Like Queen's Park are the oldest club in Scotland. They used to, like, their home stadium used to be Hampden, and now their stadium now is like, it's just like a little stand, you know, like 2,000-3,000, wherever it is. So a very, very small club, modest resources, and yeah, it was a laugh factory in Glasgow yesterday.
Alex, I want to speak to you now. There's a big game on Wednesday night, even though your team is not involved. I'm sure your eyes will be all over that. Do you think the Merseyside derby on Wednesday is almost make or break for you in some ways, in terms of belief that Arsenal can still win the league?
It's been a weird season because that is the framing. It's been Liverpool the whole time. And it feels like we've been waiting for like a lift-off point. And we almost had it with City with the 5-1. And then we go and lose to Newcastle. And I think we're like 14 unbeaten, but nothing feels like it matters because of what Liverpool are doing. It's such a weird campaign. We've sort of shot ourselves in the foot in various areas and stuff. But I think the Newcastle game was kind of the microcosm where you watch us shoot ourselves in the foot with the Raya pass, which I'm sure you love. And you also see Alex Isak pull out an unbelievable moment of skill, and that's the difference. You know what I mean? And I think we're sort of talking about Spurs. Like, I think sometimes other teams can tell you about your team, and I think Arsenal, I've sort of been resisting for a while, being like, yes, we definitely need that number 9, we definitely need that forward. You sort of go, no, if we move that player around, we do this, whatever. And you come to a point, you just go, do you know what? You just pay for that talent, you do that, you get over the line, and that's it. And that's what everyone's been saying about Arsenal for so long. I'm like, okay, I think it's time.
I'm really bored of watching Arsenal.
Same. Yeah.
No, honestly, it's the same thing every week without a centre forward. Without a centre forward, and Saka, who brings excitement and skill and can win a game on his own. And you beat your Cities 5-1, yeah, but you need these big centre forwards, these big game players who can get you them little 1-0 wins. And I'm really struggling watching it. I think there's some lovely football and it's nice, but it's not exciting because there's nothing at the end of it. Declan Rice, I'm a little bit not disappointed with him because I think he's been put in a place where we don't really know what he is anymore. Is he that holding midfield player? Is he the one that people have said it? I've heard Gary Neville say he should be the one getting forward, scoring goals. I've never seen him that way. I think he's almost become a little bit stuck in not really knowing what he is, and Arteta knowing what he is.
I think those two things are related. I think a lot of Arteta's game model is about squeezing the pitch and just getting you in that final third. And he uses Rice to do that. So he's the one picking up second balls. He's the one going grabbing everything. He's not necessarily dictating the play. And if you want to spend £105 million on a counter-pressing machine, basically, in Declan Rice, fine. But I would prefer, might as well go back and forth. I like him deeper, and I'd like to see him more on the ball. But I think what you're saying about sort of being bored, yeah. You go back and forth, and you sort of, oh yeah, but if we move this player, or if we do that, or but ultimately you just need attacking talent. Like it's that simple.
Saka's a big miss for you.
Yeah, it's
big
massive.
miss, yeah.
I think he hasn't played since before Christmas, and he's still the most big chances created in the league.
Is that not a corner?
You know the talk about
Probably,
Isak. There's a lot of talk about Isak, and of course, there's almost like this feeling that like Arsenal are going to sign him, or like Arsenal need to sign. Do you think? Are you looking at that as an Arsenal fan? I think that's realistic that you can just go and buy Isak from Newcastle. He's got like 3 or 4 years left on his contract.
Yeah,
and the reason I say that as well, because I think Liverpool are desperate for a centre forward, if I'm being totally honest. But there's no talk about Liverpool getting him. I don't understand where all this Arsenal sort of talk, because Liverpool needs one as well. And if Liverpool win the league, if he was to go, surely you'd pick the team who won the league if Liverpool won the league. I don't get this. It feels like maybe it's me seeing it on social media or something, but that's not realistic, is it?
We're still cashing the Henry tax. I think
Is that what it is?
Yeah, so he wants to be the number 14. I think, look, I think you have to look at options and where he could possibly go. I think if Newcastle don't get Champions League, I think it's a possibility. I still think.
But would you think you'd pay would you pay 100 and like what would that be, 130, 100? You'd pay that for Isak?
I think it depends. It depends on whether they get Champions League or not. It's not achievable if they don't get Champions League. And I think if they don't and he forces, it will still be over 100 million. And then whether you do that or not. But supposedly Arteta loves him.
Well, everyone loves him.
Yeah.
That's just what I was saying. I don't see a possibility of going to Arsenal.
I don't.
I think he has to go to bigger and better. I think you're talking Real Madrid, yeah.
Liverpool
top list. Liverpool needs centre forward.
Yeah, I hear that. I think Arsenal are one of the options, but I think if City have got Haaland, Madrid have signed Mbappe.
I think there'll be an option, but I think they'll be down the list as an option.
Fair enough.
I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just thinking, is that Newcastle, a really good team, brilliant team, but they're not going to win leagues. They're not going to probably win European Cup, and that's the next stage of his career. And I think it'd be a risk to go to Arsenal and do the same thing. Now, Liverpool have got a much better chance. Manchester City have got a much better chance. Real Madrid, Barcelona possibly going for it. I just think his sight should be higher than Arsenal.
Again, I'm like, Scholes not having to go with Arsenal, but you haven't won the Champions League. It doesn't mean you can't win it in the future, but when you think of those clubs, you don't think of Arsenal as a Bayern Munich or even a Man United. You don't picture them as sort of Champions League. So you've still got to conquer that.
He is a player that Manchester United would have been looking at. There's no shadow of a doubt, but in the position we're in now.
Oh no.
It's absolutely.
It's not for Arsenal to kick on to that next level. It has to be Isak. It has to be a player at that level, and they have to aim to do that. Whether they can or not is possible.
This is kind of the point. Is that I'll back Arsenal. I think he would look at Arsenal, and I think he could be that player who takes us over that line. And that might be enticing. I don't know him, but
we totally agree with that. Well, I agree with that. That he could be.
You think he's better than Arsenal?
Yeah, I think he'd be brilliant for Arsenal. I think he could possibly get you over the line, but I just think there's bigger in him. There's bigger and better in.
Alex, I want to ask you a question about. Obviously, it's a week or so ago now. The celebration, the Haaland thing, and I was quite critical of the young man. I just wanted to know what the Arsenal fan base is taking, and I know you defend your players, I get that, but was that almost seen as you enjoyed that sort of personality, that arrogance, or did you think it was like maybe a slight problem?
Yeah, I loved it when it happened, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
It's your player. I think the problem is, and I understand it from an outside, I try and think of it like, if I wasn't an Arsenal fan, what would I think? And I'd think, come on, do you know what I mean? I would, but I'm an Arsenal fan, so I love it. And for me, within it, I think it's important for players to express themselves. How often do we sit here on these sorts of panels and say, the game's lost characters and, where's the Zolas and these guys? And then he does it, and then we're all going, well, don't do that. So, I love it, but I get that some people would be like, well, you haven't won anything, you're 18 or whatever. But it's football. I don't think it's that deep, really.
The bigger issue wasn't necessarily Lewis Skelly. He's just a kid, and he's living in the moment, whatever. It almost felt like it overtook your entire football club. This one moment that Haaland, the flashpoint at the end of the game where he says, be humble, and everything. It was just everything
They go on
about
to prove his point.
But I
and
feel
then
like-
and playing the song at the end.
I
it was
felt
awful.
But what
awful
gets
look.
missed is Haaland said who the F are you to.
Yeah, but he's won everything at 20, 24, 25. He's the best, probably the best striker in the world. What I didn't get, right, is it felt to me, because I was there, right? Obviously, I'm obviously going to be annoyed. We just lost 5-1. But to me, I'm 21, and there's City fans older, younger than me, whatever. But I've seen everything. Like I could go now 60 years. It's mental. So I've seen everything. Like
There's a good chance you win in a month.
we could go another 60 years and not win anything. And what I didn't get is like, it felt, you know, in WWE and stuff when they have those like big, like they've got like 15 belts lined up and it's like the winner takes
You
all.
really watch that?
No, I don't watch that. I'm just
He's
saying.
in it.
I'm just saying, like, you know, when you see all them like stuff lined up and like the winner takes all.
No,
You don't. Well, it felt like one of those like boxing games where everything's on the line and they've just nicked all our trophies. That's how they were. That's how they were celebrating. It was bizarre. It's bizarre. I did not understand it. If that had won them the league or something like that, or you know, a big trophy, I'd have said, you know what, they can celebrate like that.
It's in the changing room. What do you think would they use that as motivation? Is that what happened?
Yeah, do you know, I was just thinking now, as you talk about, it's disrespectful, isn't it? It is disrespectful from a young player. Looking, he's excitable, he's younger, I get your point. But you have to remember, I might play against him the next 20, 25 times.
You've motivated Haaland,
Yeah.
the best finisher in the league for the next 18 games.
So the next time he scores, I'm not sure if Haaland will be that arsed about it, to be honest with you, but you can imagine him going up to Lewis Kelly and having a word with him, wouldn't you?
If you were his teammate, what would you be saying to him?
I wouldn't like him doing it, to be honest with you. If it was a centre-half especially, well, what the fuck are you doing? I've got to play against him.
I thought the same with Scholes.
What's the difference between that and Maddison doing the darts thing, though?
Well,
What?
They just remember when Madison's someone stole Madison's celebration. Who was it? Mopai. Sorry.
Yeah, but
He's an idiot. He just takes a piss.
But do you not want that?
We want character.
No, listen, it's great copy for us.
I don't think
we
it's
talk
legal,
about it,
Yeah.
but I'm a bit with Scholes, and we did the analysis on Monday Night Football where you actually see Declan Rice sort of saying to him, get back, and this game's not won, you know, keep it. Now, I don't think it's a big thing to like you're going and slow, but it's a bit like just be careful, slow down, and don't forget there was an interview I think the day after or maybe the day before it. Arteta was talking about the fact that the two young kids, Nwaneri and Lewis Kelly, don't actually get changed with the first team players. And we've all been there where you play a few games for the first team, but even your own manager at trying to keep them like, don't let them get too carried away, but you don't actually change them. So that's the point of it about it. It's like even Arteta as a manager and probably a coaching staff was like, don't let these lads get carried away. They're not even going to be changing with the first team. Stay with your mates, stay down there. Know your place a little bit. There's that. Now, if he'd done that when he was 24, 25, I'd be like, I just think it's that thing of like when you're a young kid. But listen, it's a picture he's going to be signing. For a long time.
I love it.
He's going to make a few quid out of it.
Absolutely. And also, when you say, Arsenal took over your whole club, I think that's just on social media, and social media is not a reflection of reality.
Isn't it?
It's its own reality.
It could have been. We remember Arteta using Ivan Toney's tweet in the dressing room. So wouldn't surprise me if those things did get into their heads. And it is funny, like you're going mad about the be humble thing and stuff, but you're not top of the league. But it just feels a little bit weird.
Imagine saying we're in Haaland shoes on.
But you're saying we're going mad. Who's going mad? Do you mean people on social media?
No, I mean in general, like they've been talking about this be humble thing and reacting towards it and all that kind of stuff.
That's the fan base.
It's almost like
Miles isn't on Twitter going,
about Ty and Robbie.
That's what I'm saying. That's not the players, is it? The players are just playing.
He did it on the pitch. He did the.
But it obviously was in their heads.
Yeah, of course it was. If someone said to you, if someone said to you 6 months ago, who the F are you, and you scored against them, you don't think you'd give a bit.
And Gabriel screaming in his faces and going past. You can defend it, and I would if I was if it was up in.
You just got to be careful
who
you do it against, haven't you?
You don't do it against the best number 9 in the world.
Exactly.
You loved it when he threw it, and I love it as well.
Yeah,
I love it.
I think Ireland's round the bend, isn't he?
I love it.
It's not.
See that thing that Virgil did when he
Drinks Monster for breakfast.
When Virgil went to pick, I think, Charles. I love it. I love all that stuff.
Yeah, that was good.
Keep it in the game. Great.
Adam, Man United.
Oh,
I mean, I'm going to ask you a question now. How long could it go on in terms of not just the results, because you're winning the odd one here and there, but the actual performances carry on going like that, where you might start thinking, have we actually got the right man here?
I haven't got to that stage with the manager yet.
Well, do you think you could get there before the end of the season if these performances don't?
The one thing that does worry me is if we were to drop out the cup competitions, and then then you'd have nothing to play for. Like, I don't think there's really any motivation in the squad for the league games at the moment. Like, we're fighting to go away 11th. Like, I can see there's no motivation in those games, and it comes across in some of the performances. So I think the cup competitions are really important for us this season, especially with the added bonus that if you can do something in the Europa League, you'll somehow make sure you're in the Champions League next season, which is really important, especially when you look at the PSR issues the club are facing, potentially looking at selling some of the younger players and things like that, which is very unlike the club that I've grown to love over the years. Like, it is important that you get into the Champions League, and winning the Europa League could put you in that position. And I think I was looking at the financial stats of how much Liverpool have already made this year in Champions League revenue. Like, it's massive for clubs to be in there. And I think if we were out of the cup competition, I think that's when people start to worry a little bit. But I'm
Do you not think that's happening
impressed with the manager, but the football needs to get better.
You don't think it's happening now? I'm not at the point where I'm thinking it's the wrong decision, because it's come into a mess and it still feels like a mess. But there has to be, with the league, not so much the league form, the way they're playing, even you're talking about cup competitions there. And a big concern for me, as I said to you before, Jamie, we've been crying out for a left wing back. They buy one, and it tells me his head's a little bit fried, it's a little bit confused at the minute. He plays him right wing back and keeps Darlow.
I did feel like that was maybe kind of like a Luke Shaw, Jose Mourinho thing, where he kind of just kept him on his side so he could speak to him, because he didn't have any training sessions with the club.
Maybe he should have walked around to the other side then.
Just go stand by the line up.
How did you know he was going to win the toss-up for the kick-off?
Oh, that's a good point. We always kick towards the Stretford end of the second half, JD. But it's a good point, actually.
I was going to ask you, Scholes, when you talk about the performance of, you've just mentioned the wing back. So that when you're wanting sort of belief in your manager, you look at those things. I saw Manu playing like as a false 9 the other day, and I know he'd said in the week he thinks he's more of a number 10 than a centre midfielder. He's not as good defensively as whatever.
I get that.
And then he puts him as a. I don't know, just little things like that. If I was Man United, I'd worry me a little bit. Be thinking, as you said, with the new player playing on the other side, Manu's position.
There are a few things that are concerning. I think there's a lot of stuff he needs to do. We all know that, especially in transfer windows. But I don't see a core of players. I say when you look at teams, you look right down the spine of a team. Like Liverpool, great goalkeeper, great centre half, forwards, midfield player, whatever it is. I don't think United have any of that in any position. I think a new goalkeeper is needed. Possibly 2 centre halves, 2 centre midfield players, and 2 centre forwards. I disagree. I go for 1 centre midfield, for 1 centre forward, but with a bit of stature, a bit of quality, and really create a spine. When you've got that spine right, I think, Jamie, then you can add bits to it. Now, I think Manu, he's lost. I talked about Declan Rice being lost before. I think Manu's lost as well. I don't think they know what to do with them. I don't think he knows where to play on a football pitch. Because he's been played in that, one of the number 10 positions. He has been played in the 2 in the midfield, which you can see probably doesn't succeed. I don't think he's the greatest athlete. He's a great footballer. I think the number 10 does suit him, the false 9. Never in a million years. But that spine, that core is so important. If they don't get that right this summer, this might sound ridiculous. But the form since this manager's been in, they could be looking at being in that relegation.
The form's dreadful,
I'm
but
telling you, it's been so bad.
I think I look at like the Kobe Mainoo thing. I think he does suit the 10 position better. I think when you look at all his good moments for Manchester United, the goal against Wolves, Liverpool, the cup final performance, a lot of his good things have come in the final third and that from that left-hand side. So I think he does suit that a little bit. Playing him up top in a false 9, that felt to me like it was a bit of a message towards the board with the transfer window just closing. Maybe
because he's got the 2 centre forwards there and he didn't play.
But at the same time, you say we need 2 centre backs, we need 2 midfielders. I do disagree with that. I think I've started to. I like what I see from Lenny Yoro. I think he'll grow into the game. I think he's a good footballer, good centre back.
Look, he's a young player, but I haven't liked what I've seen so far.
Really?
Did you see the Southampton game?
He had a bad one against Southampton.
Now, look, he's
but
a
I think
good
those
player,
are
and
learning curves. Isn't it?
he's-
Sometimes players are just going to have you.
Yeah, but he's one centre-half I would keep. When I'm talking about bringing that span into the team, 2 centre-halves, he's one that adds
You're
into
not rate
that.
De Ligt.
He didn't
What-
rate him from the first show
No,
to see the fan debate.
yeah,
I know
no,
I've been surprised by that because I think
Where
De
are
Ligt's
your
been quality.
ambitions, though? When you say rating, I'm talking about getting a team to win the Premier League. You're going to win the Premier League with De Ligt and Euros, your centre-halves?
I don't know. I think there's been many players over the year. You go, how have we won the league with some of them? But
Yeah.
I do think these players are quite good.
What about that Lino? You're going to give him a new deal? Tell you what, he got away with one big.
He was like all of us, just happy to get out of Old Trafford on
Adam,
Friday.
you just said you think they're quite good.
No, but
He's quite
I
good
think in
enough-
Matic
good
De
enough.
Ligt, you've got a player there. Lissandro Martinez, unfortunately, injured. I don't know if we
Yeah,
can
but
rely on
even when
someone
he's
like that.
fit, he's not good enough to win the Premier League with.
Maybe Leach.
Unless you-
I do think De Ligt's a player, man. I think there's a player in there. I think he's a good leader. I think he plays well from the middle, and I've been impressed with him since he. since
His
he came
age
in.
and his amount of clubs already concerns me.
I do disagree.
You disagree? All right, it's brilliant at Ajax. He seems to be getting worse as he's got older. I think Bayern Munich, Juventus, they've let him go for some reason.
Adam, you know the changes Scholes he's talking about, you know, we probably all agree Man United probably would need 7 or 8 players to go straight into the team if they were going to sort of challenge, you know, for, you know, probably even Champions League positions. But what is realistic? I mean, do you know the financial situation probably a bit more than us? I mean, what is realistic that Man United can do in the summer?
I think once you sell a few players, and I think it's important, that's why they're looking at these academy players, because once you sell them, it's pure profit and you can spend like 3x that amount in that transfer window. That's why I think they were looking at Garnacho potentially leaving. If Marcus Rashford does leave United and we get 30, 40 million for him, I think we'll be in a similar position. I think it will be looking at some of those younger players maybe making their way so that we can free up some funds. But I think over the last 2 or 3 years, our wage bill has dropped like massively. The amount of players we've been taking off the wage bill, and I think that will continue this summer. You got Lindelof who leaves on a free. I think Casemiro will be off. I think a lot of these players that are on big money will be off, and a lot of them have already left. So
What did you think about them taking the option on Maguire?
I'd sell him in the summer. Like, I think he's done well. I was buzzing to see he scored and allowed us to leave Old Trafford after 90 minutes on Friday. I think he has done well, and I think he's improved. But he's a bit like Onana for me now, where I'm done with Onana. And I think Onana is one of those players where he could somehow win Golden Glove in a campaign because he's a good goalkeeper. But he's always going to have those moments where he chucks it in his own net. He's always, and we talk about wanting to win the league, wanting to win the Champions League. I don't think you can ever do anything like that with Onana. So I'm kind of the same with Maguire. I think he'll have those moments where he'll look good, he'll look solid, but he's always going to have a moment where he sticks one in his own net. I think I'd get rid, cash in while you can.
Right, Roshane,
Yep.
West Ham.
Saving the best club to a lot.
Yes. First time on the fan debate. So fill us in. What are West Ham thinking how this season's gone with Lopetegui and the change with Graham Potter coming in?
I'll start with Graham Potter. A lot more optimism in terms of what West Ham can achieve under him. In honesty, over the past month, it's been a breath of fresh air, Potter coming in, because things were so bad under Lopetegui. It felt like anyone could just do better than this guy. Like, it was so bad, to the point where West Ham fans started calling him Flopetegui. He just couldn't get the best out of the team. And I must say, on the Graham Potter, the team looked more energised. I know over the past 5 matches, only 1 win, but there's been gradual improvements over the past 5 games. The team looked more organised. He's getting the best out of players. Someone like Paquetá, for example, he suffered a groin injury against Aston Villa, and the away fans are going, "Oh no, don't be injured." If that had happened a month prior, no one cares, because he wasn't playing well under Lopetegui. And my main takeaway so far from Potter is how good of a manager he is. Because myself and 2 reporters spoke to Carlos Soler 2 weeks ago, and he was like, he speaks to us, like he pulls us aside for one-on-one chats, he gives us confidence, and that's so important because we didn't see that under Lopetegui. And with him, one of his first acts as head coach was to reduce the number of days off for the team, and the plan was that to increase the work ethic, but it didn't have the effect he had hoped. The players became annoyed, and it had a big impact on morale. Another factor behind why it didn't work out for him was he kept changing his start 11. Didn't know his best start 11. Like, you guys will know, as former players, you need to have that continuity.
He kept checking every game I watched.
Yeah.
They made like a couple of changes at half time.
You know what? West Ham under Lopetegui ranked first in the league for a number of hard-time changes. So you see the starting 11, you think, he's going to change at half-time anyway. And it happened every match. And you know what? The match, right, for me, where it all unravelled was the away loss to Tottenham. It was a 4-1 defeat. And in that match, right, Mohamed Kudus just loses his cool. Absolutely lost his cool. Got a red card, which was meant to be 3 matches suspension, but it got increased to 5, right? And I said at the time, there's no way Kudus loses his cool like that if Moyes is manager. No chance. And what I mean by that is, under Moyes, right, and I know it didn't end in the best fashion, but he had that authority. He had that authority to play and they respected him. And I looked at that bench when Kudus got sent off and not a single member of Lopetegui's backroom staff went to see if he was fine. If that was Moyes, right, I guarantee you, Kevin Nolan, Billy McKinley, Johnny Heitinga, someone's gone down there to check to see if he's all right. That didn't happen under Lopetegui. And I know everyone here doesn't watch West Ham, but what I'll compare it to, it's like watching a film, right? You watch a film, after about 20 minutes, the film is rubbish. But you think, you know what, I might as well just watch it. You hope it improves, it doesn't. And after about 2-3 hours, you're thinking, I wasted all this time watching this film. That is how it felt under Lopetegui. 5 months is just pure waste. Absolute. No, it's honest, the truth. Absolute waste. And the board, they won't admit it publicly, but they know they got it wrong. Because I often say, right, there's 2 people on this earth who love David Moyes. Number 1 is his wife. I'm close second. I'm a close second. I'll always fight that man's corner because he changed West Ham, absolutely transformed the club. And I felt he deserved another new contract. They thought it was time to go in a new direction. But
so a lot of West Ham fans, and probably used to get criticised for the fact, why do you want to get rid of Moyes? And people used to always say, be careful what you wish for, which is not a statement I really like about any set of supporters, really, because you know the club better than us. But were you not one of those supporters who was saying, we want a different style, we want the West Ham way, we want to be on the front foot more? No, because the thing is, we have to understand with David Moyes, he got the club, he understood West Ham. And the thing about David Moyes is he's great at building clubs. Great at building clubs. And if you look back over the past 15 years, since Sullivan and obviously the late David Gold have been co-owners, whenever they try to go in a new direction with a manager, it's never worked. Pellegrini didn't work. Lopetegui didn't work. Bilic, fan favourite during his time, but it didn't work. I believe, right, I know it's a bit of a controversial take, but the club have always done well when they had a British manager. So David Moyes won the club a European trophy. Prague, a day I'll never forget. I'll never forget. I remember myself, another reporter spoke to David Moyes after the match, and we could tell he'd been crying. And I just felt so happy for him. So happy for him. Before that, you got Allardyce, did well at the club. Pardew got the club to FA Cup final. Harry Redknapp, John Lau. It's worked well whenever the club had a British manager. Whenever they go in the foreign avenue, it just hasn't worked. So I hope with time, Graham Potter can do similar to what David Moyes achieved, because I feel like him being out of work for over 20 months was the best thing that could happen to him. And what I mean by that is sometimes as a manager, you're constantly in a bubble, you sort of lose yourself in a way. And he said in the press conference the other day, like, he had that inner fire in his belly from getting sacked at Chelsea. And when he spent 20 months out of work, he was going to matches, scouting players. He went to the Falklands to spend time in the military. He just tried to find ways to make himself the best Graham Potter for his next club. And I believe that'll be now West Ham. Well, fingers crossed that it goes all right for them, eh?
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that is another episode of The Fan Debate, brought to you by Sky Bet, and we will see you next time. The reason I can do the Malta thing, my grandfather was Vassallo, she's from Malta, but my grandmother's maiden name is Sirio, from Barcelona. How do you think I'd have fared playing for Barcelona or Spain, or do you think I could have carried that off?
James Carragher.